Hey, what's going on? Ryan here with Intersection Records and another edition of Monday with Miles Davis. And today we're going to be exploring his 1965 album, E.S.P. E.S.P. This album represents the first studio album with what's called the Second Great Quintet, featuring Miles Davis, of course, on trumpet, Herbie Hancock on piano, Tony Williams on drums, Ron Carter on bass, and Wayne Shorter. So the other guys in the band, Carter, Hancock, and Williams, had been with Miles since '62. They worked with George Coleman on sax. They worked with Sam Rivers on sax. Really didn't put anything out in the studio. A couple things on Quiet Nights. And Miles had been trying to lure Wayne Shorter away from Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers and finally gets him here. The album's called E.S.P. because they say that when these five guys started working together in the fall of '64, by January of '65, it's almost like mental telepathy. They're communicating. Each knows what the next one's going to do already. This is produced by Irving Townsend because the Quiet Nights session, Miles didn't want Quiet Nights to come out. It was put up by Ted Macero as the producer. They would ultimately go back working with Ted. This is Miles's wife, Frances Taylor. And this would be, she's on many albums, covers with Miles, Black Hawk, Saturday and Friday Night with Black Hawk, Someday When My Prince Will Come. This would be the last album to feature her on the cover. By the end of 1965, that marriage would dissolve. And this is a cool record. Really, in listening to it again all week, I'm realizing this album is kind of famous and classic really because it represents the first studio album with the Second Great Quintet. They would go on to do several, and we're going to hit all those albums. The next album would be Miles Smiles. They would do a couple of great live albums with this lineup. Plug Nickel, which we did a few weeks ago, live in Berlin. We'll get to those, right? Again, this was recorded in 3 days of sessions from the 20th, 21st, and 22nd of January 1965 and released in August of '65. And this was done in the Hollywood Columbia Studios, same place where Quiet Nights was done as well. Again, they're talking about the telepathy. This is an album that is all original material written or co-written by somebody in the quintet. So Miles has gotten away from the standards. He will still do some standards live. He will still do some 50s repertoire live. But really, they're finally now in writing their own material. Wayne Shorter has his book that he brings, and Miles wants him to bring the book because Miles wants original material. This original material allows the band to stretch out. And the first song is a 5.5-minute song penned by Shorter called E.S.P. Again, the telepathy. Miles comes in, some fast runs around the 125 mark. Really high tempo playing, some classic. Shorter kind of takes over after the opener. It's a really cool way to open this album up. This album is pretty calm in hindsight listening to it. And like I said in my opening, maybe more famous for the fact that it represents the beginning of something that would really get great than truly great playing on this record. You can't fault any of the 7 compositions, though. The second song is 81. Now, this is one of 2 Ron Carter / Miles Davis compositions. So Miles and Ron write together here. Miles Miles is 38 years old. Miles is in fine form. These guys are all much younger. 24. Herbie's 24. Ron's a little bit older than that. Wayne's, 29-ish neighborhood. Carter's exquisite elegance on this song 81, bouncing around. They're taking from the past, but they're definitely adding something. This is still hard bop, really kind of in a post-bop world. I mean, Coltrane and Ornette Coleman are going crazy by 1965. Miles isn't really here. And he will get much more avant-garde, as we know, by the end of the decade. And really, on the next album, Miles Smiles, here they're still kind of playing it safe. This is a nice album. But it's not representative of what this quintet would ultimately do. The next song is RJ, one of my favorite songs. The next one's Little One. It's a Hancock song. It's a 7 minute and 21 second, done on January 22nd, which is the second day of these sessions. Again, kudos to the band for writing all their own comps. This is a ballad. It's airy. It's almost a little sleepy. This album has some quieter moments on it. The next song is a Ron Carter pen song called RJ. It kicks up some of the dust left in the wake of Little Ones. The rhythm section is in full flight here on RJ. Williams is, again, we've talked about him setting the tone with a ride and doing some different things. Not just setting one tone, but he may add some little polyrhythms in there too. And then Shorter just explores on the tenor. RJ is one of the better songs, certainly on side one. Let's flip the album over. And by the way, this is what the back of the record looks like. Looks like Ralph Gleason has some sort of poem on here. Ralph Gleason's a famous columnist for the San Francisco Chronicle and a great jazz historian and writer. Anyway, second side, we're talking about opening up with Agitation. So this is a Miles Davis song. This opens up with a 2-minute drum solo by Williams, really showcasing all his greatness. Miles comes in with a mute in the trumpet, and each note is audible. You can just hear him plucking these notes out with that mute. And again, the ride cymbal being explored by Williams is great. Again, we're in a post-bop world, but this is still kind of late 50s hard bop, which Miles really helped create. Maybe they're playing it a little bit safe here, but we have a band that's feeling themselves out. We're feeling ourselves out as a band here. And yeah, they don't get too crazy, but they're definitely playing well. Moving on to the next song, Iris, and this is a song that I've kind of highlighted here as there's a sultry ballad by Shorter. This is a fully written Shorter song on the third day of recording on the 22nd. Miles takes his turn at the 1:15 mark and shows why he's such a great interpreter. I've been listening to a lot of Alan Holdsworth, who's a great guitar player in the jazz fusion world. And he wasn't much of a composer, but man, could he interpret somebody else's writing. Miles was a great composer, but Miles was equally, if not more, adept to taking somebody else's idea and really pushing that idea into greatness. And I think that's what he does on Iris. Amazing high notes that he hits. Just a very romantic song by Wayne, strong composition, some lyrical playing by Herbie Hancock. Hancock's playing is great on this album. There's other albums where he's going to shine more, and really, this is an example, like all these albums, of just all 5 members really being great at what they do. The next song and last song on this album is called Mood. Again, it's a Ron Carter, Miles Davis co-written song. Again, recorded on the 22nd of January 1965. It's an 8.5-minute song. Miles has got the mute in. You could hear every breath. You know, you get some good headphones on or listen to this vinyl on some good speakers. You could hear him making decisions, and with that mute, it's just so audible. It's really cool. Wayne then plays with Miles' melodies. Miles is setting up these melodies, and Wayne is just kind of beeping around and adding some colors. Just a highlight of the record for me. The album is a mellow record for the most part, but it's solid throughout. It's again classic for the fact of what it represents. It represents a rebirth in Miles. It represents a new live band that he could take out and be proud of. And really what they're going to do between here in 1968 is just special. Then we're going to get to every one of those records, but right now we are going to pick next week's record from our bucket here and see what we have for next week to discuss on Monday with Miles Davis. And we are going to be talking about the 1961 release, Someday My Prince Will Come, again featuring Frances Taylor Davis on the cover. John Coltrane's going to be making a visit into this Miles Davis world next Monday night. Anyway, peace out. Check out the channel. We do shows every day. Subscribe if you like the material. See you.